Hello there. In this video I'm going to show you how you can make this pendant here, which has got one round gem in the centre and five cushion gems placed in this pendant, and the pattern that I'm going to use is a Capareda curve, which is a parametric curve. So we're going to do this in Fluid Designer for 3D printing, and so the first thing I'm going to do is well, first of all I'm going to show you that we do have some gem shapes on here. So I'm going to use this cushion gem and also a round gem. So I'm going to append some objects from this particular file here, so gem settings for prongs. I'm going to append the actual cushion gem, the ring, and the prongs themselves. So we're going to import them basically from this file. Both for the cushion gem and for the round gem. We're also going to append a connector, so we're going to append this wire connector here to complete our pendant. So if we just go back to pendants folder, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this parametric object, a Capareda curve. And the advantage of using parametric objects is that we can make complex 3D printable shapes very easily with parametric objects. So I'm going to use this Capareda curve, and if I just drag and drop that onto the workspace, and I'm just scrolling the center mouse button there to scroll back so you can see what it looks like. Now at the moment this is set up so that I can increase the count here. I'll just scroll back a bit more, increase the count here, and create a simple pendant. And I could also change the number of rows, so I could make it even more complicated by increasing the rows there, but I don't want to do that in this instance. So this is a parametric object, and when you save this as an OBJ file, you'll be able to create a 3D printable pendant from it. Now I want a 5-sided shape, and at the moment this is 6-sided, so I want a pentagon, so I need to change this angular rotation. So at the moment it's set to 60 degrees. If I change that to 72 degrees, 5 times 72 is 360. That's why we've now got a 5-sided pendant there. But what you must now do is you must change this count back down. What you don't want is any of these objects laying on top of themselves, because otherwise you'll have real problems when it comes to making sure the mesh is 3D printable. It probably won't be. Okay, so that's how I can get my 5-sided pendant. If I want to change the cross section of this, at the moment this is round, and if I go over here you can see at the moment the cross section diameter is 1 millimeter. I could change it to 1 by 2. So in other words, it's 1 millimeter there and 2 millimeters deep. I'm actually going to use 1 by 3. So I'm going to make it 3 millimeters deep. That'll allow me to put the gems in the center here and in here and here. Now if I just go to top view at the moment, the position of this is such that actually putting the gemstones in here is a little bit tricky. If you just want to print a simple pendant with no gemstones, then you can basically print off that object. But if you want to put gemstones in, it's a good idea to actually change the way that this is rotated and the position of the object. And so what I'm going to do is if I just drag this down a little bit now, and I just leave a gap at the center there where I'm going to put my gem in, I want to wrap this around the center point now, the cursor. Now when I try and do offset here, you can see it's not actually touching. Well, one of the reasons it's not touching is this relative offset here needs to be switched off, and I just want to be rotating about this angular rotation. Now I need the angular rotation to be at the center point, the cursor. It isn't at the moment, because what we've got at the moment is the center of gravity of this object is here, and we can see that in the main information icon. We can see the location of it is -11. Well, if you do Control A on the keyboard and apply the location, notice this sets back to 0, and the center of gravity is now the center point here. And if I now increase the count, we get the effect that I really want. I want to rotate this about that centre point, and we're going to use this centre point to put in our cushion gems and our round gem. Okay, so that's an important point to make. Set these back to 0, and we're going to have to do that a couple of times as we work through this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a gem shape, and I'm going to add in a round gem first of all. So I'm going to use this round 4-prong 10mm gem, and I'm going to append it to here. And so the way I do that is I go to File and Append, and just go up through the menu system until you get to the Groups folder, and then you can see all the patterns and objects on your system. And I'm going to use a gem setting 4-prong, and I'm going to use a round one. And I want the object, and the objects that I want is, I want the inner claws, I'm going to import the round ring, and I'm going to import the round gem. All these others are just cross sections, they're not important, I'm not going to append those. So I just want to append those 3 objects. Now it's a good idea here to click in this panel and make sure that all 3 of them are highlighted. And what I want to do now is I want to rotate them about the x-axis. So if I do R and X on the keyboard and 90 degrees, that will rotate them about the x-axis. And with all 3 highlighted now, if I just go to View and Top View, if I go to Cursor and snap Selection to Cursor, it will position them exactly in the middle of the screen, which is what I want. Now what I want to do is I want to resize this gem such that it actually fits in here. I'm not actually going to use the ring as such. So what I do is if I do S on the keyboard for scale and then move the mouse inwards, you can see where the gem goes, and I'm going to position it at 0.7. So in other words, we're going to use a 7mm gem here. Now whenever you're scaling Fluid Designer, always do Control A and apply the scale, otherwise you will have problems with printing. Now I could scale this ring here. I can just select it. I could scale this ring down, scale 0.7, so that it fits inside there, so that my gem could fit in that ring, but I don't need to use that ring. I'm going to actually use the body of the pendant itself to rest the gem in. So I'm actually going to press X and delete to get rid of that ring there. And if I just click on my gem and just position it now, so I just want to pull that down, so that's where the gem's going to sit. Now we've got these prongs here, but we've got 4 prongs which we've imported from the rings, and I don't want those 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this modifier. This mirror modifier is what's creating the 4 prongs. So I'm going to delete the mirror modifier, and if I just zoom in on the prongs, if I just press the tab key to go into edit mode, the prong is actually just made up of a NURBS curve. It's just a line basically, and it's just got 2 control points, one at the top and one at the bottom. Now if I just go to View and Front View, I need to move this point up a little bit, and so if I just move that up, now that's moved it up a little bit too far, so if I just switch the snap off for the moment and just pull it back down, I don't want it sticking out of the bottom. I want the bottom of the prong to be just above the bottom surface of the pendant, and I'll just switch the snap back on now. And so if I go to View and Front View, you can see that that's positioned okay. Now 2.5–3mm, probably a little bit longer. We're going to make that as the length of the prong. Now I want to position the prong, so I'm highlighting both control points there. I just held the Shift key down, and if I go to View and Top View, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to position this here, and then I'm going to create 5 of them. So if I've just pressed the G key on the keyboard to grab, and I've got the snap on at the moment, so if I just switch snap off again and just zoom in, if I just grab it, I'm going to put my prong there. So it's going to be attached to this part of the pendant when it's 3D prints. So I can come out of edit mode now, and if I just go to View and Top View, Now my pendant here is wrapped around this object called an angular rotation, and that's created 5 pendants. I want 5 of these now, 5 of these prongs. So if I just select the prong, so if I just go to modifier, if I use an array modifier, I don't want relative offset, I want an object offset, and I want an angular rotation. And I want 5 of them. Now you can see on the screen there that something really quite weird's happening. And what's happening is that if we just go to the main information icon, this object has been rotated 90 degrees. We need to set this back to 0, and we do that by doing Control A on the keyboard. And when I select rotation here, you'll see that those values have been set back to 0. I also need, and the prongs are now in a slightly better orientation. But I also need to set this back to 0, and you do that by doing Control A and apply the location. What we're doing basically is putting the centre of gravity of this prong in the middle of the screen. So you can see I've now got 5 prongs that will all support this gem. Now what I want to do now is to put some gemstones in here, and when I look through different gems, the one that works best is the cushion gem. That's more or less what this shape is as it works out. So what I want to do now is go to File and Append, and if we just go up through the menu system until we get to Groups folder, I want Gem Settings Prong, and this time I'm going to use a cushion gem. And so I want the cushion gem, I want some claws, and I'm going to import the ring as well, just so you can see what it looks like. And again, they're at 90 degrees, so we've got the same sort of issue as last time. So I need to select those. Oh, I don't want the round one. I want, I want those 3 objects there. So first thing is to rotate them x-axis 90 degrees. But I don't want to put them in the center this time. I'll just switch my snap on. I want to put them down here, and I'm going to put them in that position. But notice that I need to rotate this. I'm going to have to rotate this 45 degrees for it to fit properly in there. So if we just position that, hopefully that's in the right place there. We can always move it later. What I need to do is a couple of things. I need to scale this down. So if I do S on the keyboard and move the mouse inwards, I can scale it down. I think that's the right size, but as you can see, it's not quite in the right location. Now remember, when you scale, you must always do Control A and apply the scale, otherwise some strange things will happen. And I want to rotate this now, and I think if I rotate it 45 degrees, and if I just zoom in and just position it. Now I'm going to have to switch the snap off to get this in the right location here. Now I've actually scaled it down too much. That's a bit too small, that. So if I do Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z until I get it back at the right size again. Yep, there we are. Let's hope I haven't gone too far. So if I scale it down, I've forgotten what I've scaled it to now. Okay, probably there. Yeah, I went too far last time. And remember to do Control A and apply the scale, otherwise you will have issues. And I'll set the Z to 45 degrees. And if I just zoom in now and I need to switch the snap off just to position this. Right, so you can see there it's now fitting nicely above that space at the bottom. Now I don't need to use this gem setting here again, because I can put my gem on the actual pendant itself. So I'll just press X and just delete that, and I'll just select the cushion gem and just move it down so it's in the right location. That's where it's going to go. That should be okay. Now if we just go to View and Top View, now we're not going to print the gems themselves, but we can create 5 of them to see what it looks like. So if we go to an array modifier, and again if we select Object Offset, we want Angular Rotation, and we want 5 of them. Now again, notice weird things are happening, and the reason that weird things are happening are these values here. So once we're happy that the gem's in the right place, if you just do Control A and apply the rotation, they go back to 0. Things look a little bit better. And if we do Control A and apply the location, they all go back to 0. The center of gravity of this object is the cursor, so everything's in the right place now. The only thing that we need to do is to add the prongs for this. So we've got 4 prongs here that we imported with this cushion gem. And again, this is made up of a mirror one, so I'm going to delete that and go to View and Top View. Oh, sorry, no, I'll go to View and Front View again, because I need to change the positioning of it in this direction. So I need, like I did last time, I need to pull that one up, and I just need to increase the height slightly. And I'm going to switch this. No, I probably need the snap off actually. Okay, so that's position. That's got the prong height okay. So it's just inside there now. And now I need to position it from the top view. So if I go to View and Top, and if I press G on the keyboard, I can grab this and move it across. And I'm going to put it there. And if I just zoom in, now this is clearly not at the right sort of angle, so I need to change this tilt value here. Okay, so if I change this to minus 90, because it's currently tilted at 45 degrees. Okay, so if we go to View and Top, so you can see that that minus 90 has put it in a nice position now. And all I need to do is to just line that blue line up with the green line, so it's nice and centered now. Okay, and I could just pull it back a little bit, so you can see where that prong is going to fit. And if we go to View and Top View again, and come out of Edit Mode, now clearly I'm going to need 4 of these around here. I'm just going to do 2 in this video because I don't want the video to go on for too long. So what I can do is I can duplicate this object and press the Enter key on the keyboard, so the duplicate object will be exactly the same place there. And if I just move that up now and just position it at that side, just to show you what you need to do, and then if I hold down the Shift key and select on the first prong here, yeah, so I've got the 2 prongs highlighted. If I go to Tools, Object Tools, and join the 2 of them together so they become one object, and really I need to put a couple at the side as well to complete this, but as I say, I'm not going to do it in this video. You can do that yourself. What we now need to do is to replicate this around our pendant. And again, we can use the modifier, we can use an array modifier, and we don't want relative offset. Again, we want to use the angular rotation, and we want 5 of them. But again, you can see it's going really weird, and that's again all to do with these values here. So if we do Control A and apply select the rotation back to 0, that will improve it. And if we do Control A and set the location back to 0, you can see now we've got this pair of prongs. I say we do need another 2 really, going around our pendant. The only other thing that we need to do now is to add a connector at the bottom here. So what we're going to do is we're going to append one of these connectors. So it's going to be the 2.5mm wire connector. So it's this object here. So if I go to File and Append, again, always go up through the menu system until you get to the Groups folder, and I want a 3D template connector with a 2.5mm hole. So I want a wire connector with a 2.5mm hole. And if I just drag that and pull it down, you can see what I'm dealing with. And I just need to rotate it about the Z-axis 180 degrees, so it's facing upwards. And then I just need to position it so that it's in the center of there. That's okay. Now if I want, I can change the thickness of this, because this is a parametric object. I can change the thickness. I'm going to make it 1 by 2, so it's not quite as thick as the pendant. Remember, the pendant was 1 by 3. Okay, so that's essentially it. I know there are a couple of prongs missing here, but you can put those in yourself. Now what you need to do now is you need to get rid of the gems, so X delete, and what you need to do now is to change all of these objects to meshes. So if you go to Tools, Object Tools, and convert that to a mesh. We'll do the connector as well. Tools, Object Tools, convert it to a mesh. Select the prongs. There's two pairs of prongs here. Maybe better if I do it over. I've got it. Tools, Object Tools, convert to a mesh. And I'll select the other prongs over here. Tools, Object Tools, convert to a mesh. And then essentially you want to select all of these objects. So I want the Capareda curve pendant. I want the 2 sets of prongs. And I want the wire connector. And if you just go to Tools, Object Tools, and join them all together. And because we use parametric equations here, the only thing that you need to do with this now is to save it as an OBJ file or as an STL file. So you export it as an OBJ or as an STL file. That's all you need to do. And then go to Netfab Basic just to make some minor repairs to it. There'll be some few problems. That's always the case when using Fluid Designer for 3D printing. And you'll then have a 3D printable pendant, and you can then order the right size gems and complete your pendant. So that's it for this video. Good luck creating your own.